Ladies and gentlemen, Wanis Kabbaj.
Good morning. For me, watching urban panoramas is always a fascinating experience. Some cities are calmly industrious, like Düsseldorf or Louisville. Others project an incredible level of energy, like New York or Shanghai. And then you have Prague or Istanbul and their old stones full of mysteries. I see cities as living beings, and when I watch them from far above, I like to find those main streets and highways that structure their space, especially at night, when commuters make these arteries look dramatically red and golden. The city's vascular system performing its vital function right before your eyes. But when I'm sitting in my car on 285 every morning, I have the hardest time finding this scene romantic. And it's really hard to think that we're driving cars that have been developed over 100 years that can easily reach 130 miles per hour. And we're happy when they reach the same speed as 19th century horse carriages. We, in America, we've spent almost 30 billion hours commuting in 2014. With that amount of time, ancient Egyptians could have built 26 pyramids of Giza. And it's not a joke, the math is true. It's a monumental waste of time, energy, and human potential. Our city's vascular system is getting clogged, and we should take it seriously. Our current way of thinking, the solutions that we've tried, are not really working. We need radical new ideas. We need a new source of inspiration. So I've been working 17 years in transportation, and I had my aha moment at a time where I didn't expect. I was talking with one of my customers, which happens to be in the biotech sector. And she was telling me about the elegance and extreme sophistication of the vascular system. And I thought, wow, the vascular system, all the veins and arteries in our body doing miracles of logistics every day. This is the moment I realized that biology has been in the transportation business way longer than UPS, Delta, or Ford Motor Company. It has been testing countless solutions to move nutrients, proteins, and gases. It really is the world's most sophisticated transportation laboratory. So as we're thinking about how to build the urban networks, fast-flowing urban networks of tomorrow, why don't we look at biology? Why don't we learn from biologic systems like the vascular system? I wanted to understand why. Why is it that blood flows in our veins most of our life when our big cities get clogged on a daily basis? And I don't know if you realize, but each of us has 60,000 miles of blood vessels in our body. 60,000 miles. That's 1,000 times 285. That's 2.5 times the Earth's circumference. What it means is that we have blood vessels everywhere inside us, not just under the surface of our skin. But if you look at our cities, yes, we have some underground subway systems and tunnels and bridges, but the vast majority of our urban traffic is concentrated on the ground. It's concentrated on the surface, with sometimes a very heavy reliance on few major roads. So in other words, our vascular system really uses the 3 dimensions inside us when our urban traffic network is mostly flat. And so what we need is to conquest that missing verticality. If our surface grid gets saturated, let's find ways to elevate our traffic. Imagine how much time you could save if you could glide through town on one of these gyroscopic buses. And we could go higher and suspend our transportation, like we did with our electrical wires, with networks like this one of suspended magnetic pods. And we could go even higher, and for some urgent transportations, well, just fly. There are some very interesting ventures right now with Airbus, with EHang, all over the world, of companies working on drones that can be suitable for human transportation. And so that's what we need. We need to build that multi-layered transportation system, the 3D transportation system, in order to help us say no to traffic jams. But it's not the only ingredient. We have to question other fundamental choices. Next time you're stuck in a traffic jam, so later when you leave this building, I want you to think that out of the 100 cars around you, statistically 85 of them only have one passenger. If you see any truck, one truck out of 4 is likely to be empty because coming back from a delivery. And so the question is why? Why are we wasting so much space if it is what we need the most? Why are we doing this to ourselves? Biology would never do this. Space inside our arteries is fully utilized. At every heartbeat, higher blood pressure literally compacts millions of red blood cells into massive trains of oxygen that quickly flow throughout our body. And the tiny space inside our red blood cells is not wasted either. In healthy conditions, more than 95% of their oxygen capacity is utilized. Can you imagine if the cars in our cities were 95% full? The reason that blood is so incredibly efficient is that our red blood cells are not dedicated to specific organs or tissues. They're shared. And because our network is so incredibly extensive, each one of our 37 trillion cells can get its own deliveries of oxygen precisely when it needs them. Blood is both a collective and an individual form of transportation. But for our cities, we've been stuck. We've been stuck in an endless debate between developing a car-centric society or developing extensive mass transit systems. And I think it's time we transcend this. I think we can think of solutions and vehicles that combine the convenience of cars and the efficiency of trains and buses. Just imagine, you're sitting in a fast and smooth urban train. You know, the problem with trains in urban context is that you sometimes have to stop 5, 10, 15 times before your final destination. Well, what if in this train you didn't have to stop? In this train, wagons can detach dynamically and become express driverless buses that move on a secondary road network. So without a single stop, nor a lengthy transfer, you're now sitting in a bus that is headed toward your destination. And when you get close, this section where you're sitting in detaches and self-drives you right to your doorstep. It is collective and individual at the same time. And this could be one of the modular, shared, and driverless vehicles of tomorrow. Now, as if walking in a city buzzing with drones, modular buses, suspended magnetic pods was not exotic enough, I think there's another force in action that could make urban traffic mesmerizing. If you think about it, we all talk a lot about driverless cars. The current generation of driverless cars is transitional. It's trying to earn its way into a traffic grid that is made by and for humans. But what will happen when whole cities become driverless? Will we need traffic lights? Will we need lanes? How about speed limits? Red blood cells are not flowing in lanes. They never stop at red lights. And we have a stunning network of muscle within our blood vessels that contracts and retracts to change the flows and steer oxygen where it's most needed. In the first driverless cities, you may not recognize traffic lights. You may not see lanes. When all the cars are driverless and connected, everything is predictable and reaction time minimum. They can drive much faster and can take any rational initiative that can speed them up and the cars around them. So instead of rigid traffic rules, flow will be regulated by a mesh of dynamic and constantly self-improving algorithms. The result? A strange circulation that mixes the fast and smooth rigor of German autobahns and the creative vitality of the intersections of Mumbai. Traffic will be functionally exuberant. It will be liquid like our blood. And by a strange paradox, the more robotized our traffic grid will be, the more organic and alive its movement will feel. So, trying to move up to the next slide. All right. So, biology has all the attributes of a transportation genius today. But this process has taken billions of years and went through all sorts of mutations and iterations. One of these phases, the era of dinosaurs, was so superlative that it still strikes our imagination today. Some of the dinosaurs were big like our container vessels. They were noisy like the streets of Jakarta. Their appetite was voracious like our gas guzzlers. we may be living, modern transportation may be living its dinosaur moment. But contrary to popular belief, dinosaurs did not go extinct. They evolved, they shrunk, they grew wings, and they're still flying above our heads as birds. So my question for you, Atlanta, is, are you ready to fly? Thank you.